Hello and welcome to DFS Coach Talk. It is Tuesday, May 25th, 2021. I'm Andrew Hansen alongside Joe Sarvati, affectionately known as Coach. And we're coming off a solid night last night, Coach, where most of our builds cashed in what was a surprisingly low-scoring DFS slate.
It was a weird one, Andrew. I'm telling you, man, I've never seen that many snowflakes on the leaderboard, I think, ever in DraftKings. There were guys in the top 10 with like 3 snowflakes, and our cash lines had like 4 or 5 of them. It was just a bizarre night, Deadman, Forbes, guys you'd never dream of, making a big difference. And, you know, we stuck by and cashed in a weird night. I'll take it and move on. And I think tonight's slate should be a little bit more reasonably able to figure out here. So that's what we're going to do. Break these teams down one by one, not just the games, but the teams, and really try to smash this slate.
Yeah, I kind of like this slate a little better. Even though it's 3 games, as you mentioned before the show, these teams are going to get after it tonight. We could have some really tough battles, intense games. And by the way, what a great start to the playoffs with all this intensity. Trae Young in the Garden. It's like every game there seems to be a storyline. We'll get to the Lakers and the Suns and them getting physical.
Yeah.
Boston, Brooklyn, Kyrie, playing against his old team. I mean, just on down the line. And, here we are in game 2. So we have coaches making adjustments, and I'm really excited for tonight.
I mean, when teams lose the first game at home, it becomes a whole different scenario for some of these guys. Like you saw Denver, they came out last night, man. They were ready to punch everybody in the face. They weren't going to lose that game. And, I think you're going to see a lot of that tonight, too, with Clippers and some of these other matchups. They know when you go down 2-0, it's usually pretty darn tough. Statistically, that's a hard thing to come back from. So I love it, man. And just I always knew that it would be great, but having the fans back and hearing the roars and the chants, and I mean, it's just that's what it's supposed to be, not the cardboard cutout stuff that we had to live through. So it really does feel like playoffs. I'm excited, and I think the games tonight are going to be terrific.
Right. We get another 7:30 start to the slate with Boston and Brooklyn, and this is a situation where the home team did prevail in game 1. So talk to us about Brooklyn and their efforts to try to go up 2-0 here tonight.
Yeah, and I mean, definitely have a good chance to do that. This is the biggest line on the board for this set of first-round games, not just tonight. Brooklyn's favored by almost double digits, 9.5. It's clicked up to 10 for a second and then back to 9.5. So that's a pretty stout favoritism. And it is a 227 total, which it's an important number because it is much higher than the 216 and 208.5 that we're going to get in the next 2 games. So, from that number, which is an important number, you're going to get some more possessions and some more DFS point possibilities. And so this game is extremely important. And Boston down 1-0. They know they need to get this game. They stuck in there for quite a while with Brooklyn. And I'm sure they think they can turn it up a notch and do better. From a couple other statistical points from pace, again, you've got Boston at 20, Brooklyn at 11. So you're going to get decent pace here. Where they struggle is defensively. Of the teams tonight, this is definitely the worst defensive efficient teams. Therefore, that's why you're seeing that 227 number. But you've got Boston at 15th and Brooklyn at 21st. And then the other reason, bumpering right with that, offensive efficiency, Boston 11th, and Brooklyn has taken over first, Andrew. They are now the most offensive efficient team in the league, even though they've only played 9 games together with the big 3. So how do we look at this game from the Nets side? And then I'll let you, break down the Boston side. That's your squad. You know more about them than just about anybody. So the $1 million question, everybody, you start your slate when you start building. You look at the Brooklyn game, you look at the three superstars, and that's where you have to start. Where do I want to go here? Do I want one of them or do I want two of them? Because that shapes everything else you do the rest of the slate. And, let's look at that first game a little bit. You got almost 40 minutes from Durant, which is impressive. And he took 25 shots. There's nothing to be sour about on that one. He was 10 for 25, which, he can shoot better than that. He was 1 for 8 from 3. So, to still be able to get 32 points and be that inefficient from 3, 12 rebounds, led the team, because they're sort of playing centerless ball, Andrew, really, and Durant's taking on that role. So, I thought that might happen, and he is super expensive, but he is my choice of the three. I think he'll be, very highly owned. And I just think that the game he had this last game was a good game, but I think he can have a better game. I really do, especially if Boston pushes them a little bit. As far as the other key guys with big minutes, you've got your two studs, and they both played a lot. Kyrie, 37 minutes, and Harden, 36. And then, you had 29 points from Irving and 21 from Harden. So, all three of these guys are going to produce. As far as Harden goes, you're going to get your triple-double or close to it. He almost made it here with 21, 9, and 8. So he could be an easy pay-up guy. Or if you want to unload the Brinks truck here and try to put Durant and Harden in there, you can do it. It does, really handcuff you the rest of the way, but I'm not disagreeing with it. And then, Irving, 11 for 20, 2 for 8 from 3, 6 rebounds, only 1 assist, because I noticed that's a big thing when Harden's playing and Irving, with Irving, Harden's getting that point guard assist ratio way more than Kyrie. So that brings Kyrie down just a slight bit, but he's still phenomenal and cheaper than the other two if you want to go that way. But after that, Andrew, I played Joe Harris last time, and he did okay. But all I was going for, as we've talked about this before, you've got to find some value guys that are going to get 30-plus minutes. That really becomes the key. If you had, as crazy it is, Dedmon and Forbes yesterday, you broke the bank. And they were tougher ones to pick, but they played big minutes. And, that was a little unexpected. I got 37 minutes and 20 seconds from Joe Harris in that last game, and he barely squeezed by. So that makes me nervous because he was only 4 from I can't say it. 4 11. There you go, double fours. He from the field, which is bad, 3 rebounds, 0 assists, 0 steals, 0 blocks. So, it's hard to want to pull that trigger again on his statistical output, but the 37 minutes and 20 seconds, also very hard to pass up on the other side because, again, where's the value with the minutes? After that, man, you've got to have some courage to play any of the other guys with Brooklyn. It's what we expected. These three guys are going to carry them. They've sort of chucked the whole center aspect of things. DeAndre Jordan did not get in. Claxton only played 11 minutes. Jeff Green played a lot at center with 26 minutes, but split that with Blake Griffin with 19 minutes. And embarrassingly, I played Blake, and guess what? He shot 100% for the game, Andrew.
Right.
0 for 0. So a guy that takes 0 shots in his 20 minutes of play only gets 3 rebounds. Boy, that's a hard pill to swallow. And, I'll pass it on to you because I don't like any of the other ancillary guys, by the way. I'm not reaching for 18 minutes Brown. Jeff Green is partly in question. Sham at only 13 minutes. James and those guys didn't even get in. So, two-part question for you as I flip it to you. Is there anybody on this team that's worth playing other than the 3 studs, Durant, Irving, and Harden? And secondly, can you trust one of these centers slash forwards, whatever they are, of those 3 or 4 guys that may play? Because I can't seem to find anybody that I feel comfortable plugging in there. So what do you think on the Brooklyn side?
Yeah, it's pretty much the three studs for me. Um, I don't like Joe Harris when those three guys are playing. If he's in the $4,000 range, I've played him a couple times when he dips way down in the 3K range on FanDuel, but just
Yeah.
don't trust the usage there. So it's KD for me. I also agree he's the number one target. I like Harden over Irving because of the assist. Like you said, he's running the show.
Yeah.
And then yeah, I don't like Shamit or Bruce Brown here. And then Jeff Green is probably the only big quote unquote I would play because when
Yeah.
he's coming off the bench, he has a chance to get more shots than Blake Griffin, and he's pretty cheap on DraftKings at 3,600. But I'm just not fired up about that area of the slate. And as you mentioned, DeAndre Jordan didn't play,
No.
which that's the one thing I wonder if they'll change that because Robert Williams had a monster game off the
Yes, he
bench for
did.
Boston and
They played
Claxton.
against a bunch of forwards. I mean, what the
Right,
heck?
right. So maybe they tinker and DeAndre Jordan gets some backup minutes. So I would not play Claxton because I just don't trust what's going to
Yeah.
happen there. But it's all GPP if you're going to mess with
Yeah.
Griffin,
Way
Claxton,
too
or
much
Jordan.
risk
Yeah,
there. Yeah.
yeah. So I focus on the studs here, and then turn it over to Boston.
Yeah.
They need this one obviously, and it is probably the best matchup on the slate with Brooklyn's good pace and bad defense.
True.
Brooklyn down to 11th in pace, but that's still the fastest on this slate.
Yeah.
And their 19th ranked defense is the worst on the slate. So, I'm interested in the possibility of some Celtics. The problem is, if you go with Durant and or Harden, then pretty tough to pay for Tatum, who went
Yeah.
6 for 20. They did a good job on him. Could he bounce back and play more like the 50-point Tatum that we saw recently? Sure, he could, but I trust KD more, so he gets the nod for me, and I may not get to Tatum. Marcus Smart is a decent value here. He got 40 minutes, 5K range. I think he'll make some lineups for me. Kemba is a big question mark for me. He only played 27 minutes.
Yeah.
Good matchup if he gets Kyrie. They need him. He just didn't produce in game one, so I'm going to be thinking about that. And then with the bigs, I like the possibility of Tristan Thompson or Robert Williams. They split the game, but Robert Williams just destroyed it with those 9 blocks and almost a double double. And
That was nuts.
and he's really cheap on DraftKings. He's 4,600. Tristan Thompson 4,400 on FanDuel. That could be an interesting pivot to pay down from Robert Williams on FanDuel, get him at lower ownership. He can easily get a double if he plays half the game again. And then we got to mention Jabari Parker, who I thought they
Yeah.
might play the game before that, and he didn't get in there, but now he gets 22 minutes off the bench. He's still minimum price on DraftKings, and they need that scoring punch. So I think he's in play. So even though Boston has maybe the best matchup on the slate, I don't think I'll end up spending most of my money here. More of a mid tier maybe with Smart, and then maybe Parker or Robert Williams. What are your thoughts on the Celtics?
Yeah. I have a small fear that Brooklyn just waxes them. I mean, that could happen.
Yeah, I'll just jump in right there too because
Yeah.
you know I was really worried about Boston when Jaylen Brown went down because they went from a team who was thinking, man, if we can just get everybody healthy, get Kemba out there, we can make a real push. We've got stars.
Yeah.
We added Evan Fournier, and I think they could have made some noise, but I don't think they can now. And you're right. I mean, with Brooklyn's firepower, if Boston's sort of starting to see the writing on the wall, this could get ugly.
And my concern is, I mean, you could be sunk going into the two late games, it's possible. I mean, let's just say Brooklyn comes out and they do wax them. Then that means you're going to lose minutes for Durant and Harden or Irving if you play those guys. So that's going to hurt. Obviously, if they wax them, that means they probably held Tatum down if you go that direction. And then after that with Boston, I think it's a complete crapshoot, man. I hate, and I always mention this, but I think it's important. I don't want a guy that's going to play 22 minutes and split the position. You just can't afford that. I almost would rather have a little bit lesser player that's going to get upper 30s. It's just the ball bounces your way sometimes. You can accidentally get 5 rebounds and a couple of assists. So this is tough, man. I mean, I want to believe that Boston keeps it close, but here's the $1 million question to me. As I was trying to build these lineups and game script, I don't believe there's a 1% chance that Boston keeps this game super close unless Tatum has one of his 40 real point games, because who else is going to do it? So that's my question to you is, can I get away with playing Harden and Durant and not playing Tatum, or am I being, is that just a stupid play? Because the more I looked at it, I'm thinking, why should I spend the majority of my salary on 2 guys when they could do very well, but if the game blows out, they're going to lose minutes, which you can't afford. And if it doesn't blow out, it's got to be a good portion of Tatum. See, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I think in general that makes a lot of sense, but it doesn't have to work out where you get a guy on the other side that you have to have just because of the pricing. And we saw it in game 1 here with Tatum shooting 6 for 20. They only lost by 11. So
true.
They're balanced enough with enough veteran guys, Kemba, Smart, Fournier. They can all score. It can be balanced. And it always circles back to the price. So, Tatum at 10,000, if he puts up 45 fantasy points, you don't want that. So You're better off sticking with KD and Harden and paying up for somebody later like Kawhi, who I think is underpriced today.
Yeah, he is. Yeah, I think it's the pivotal game of the slate. There's no doubt in my mind. And I'll tell you right now, I'm either going to go with one of the 2 strategies I just described, either Durant Tatum or Harden Tatum if I go that route. And I'd like some correlation. And this game stays close. Those guys could be absolutely all 3 of them in the optimal lineup. There's no doubt in my mind. As far as the rest of the guys for Boston goes, man, you had 38 and a half minutes from Fournier, which is great. But man, he's painful to watch at times because he doesn't do anything else well really than shoot the ball, and he's not shooting the ball well. So, I get it if you want to play him because of the giant minutes, but he's not a good value. The guy I always seem to gravitate to just because I love his style of play and he's going to give you everything he's got is Marcus Smart, but his price is pretty bad now. It's expensive. And yeah, he played almost 40 minutes, and I expect that he will again. If I'm going to be really scratching for some correlation and don't buy up to Tatum, for me, Smart's the next play. I wish it was Walker, and I wish I knew that he'd play 35, 36 minutes. But I'm with you. When I saw that 26 minutes and 51 seconds in a game where that they needed and were losing, and it was close enough, that tells me that Stevens either thinks that his defense is so bad that they need to go bigger and get him off the floor, or Kemba's not 100%, which we know he's been not feeling great, sitting games a lot this year. So that takes that little element away from me as far as wanting to risk to play Kemba. Good GPP play because he could have a Kemba game, but I'm just not comfortable with it. And I'm not going to fall into the Jabari Parker trap. I know everybody's going to play him, and he's super cheap, and he does get a lot of DFS points per minute. He always has. I just, screams trap to me, and it's difficult to pull the trigger there. And then the rest of those guys, Andrew, I'm with you, man. I don't want a bunch of guys splitting minutes. I don't care if Robert Williams had a fluke 9 blocks game. There's no way in hell he'll probably have more than 2 blocks in this game. And statistically, at 22 minutes, Parker at 21, Thompson at 24. I mean, all of that is fine for Boston because they're trying to just make something work, but it's not fine in the DFS standards. If you think you're going to get those repeat games from those guys, minus the fluky 9 blocks from Robert, then I don't think they're playable because the risk is there. And, the price is okay, but it's just risk reward's not there for me. So I'm going to come out of this game spending a decent amount of money because I like the main guys. I don't see a ton of value, but I do think those main guys could be the key to the slate.
Yeah. I'll just chip in that I disagree on the bigs for Boston. I think they're all playable.
Okay.
Jabari, Robert Williams, Tristan Thompson, because of their prices. I mean, Robert Williams doesn't have to get 9 blocks to hit value, especially on DraftKings at 4,600. And Parker, I mean, you described the reason to play him because
he's high minutes per
he's
points per minute.
Points per minute, and he's minimum price on DraftKings. So he doesn't. I mean, if you tell me he's going to play 20 minutes again,
well, that's a problem. That's my exact point. Thompson, Williams, and Parker. Can you see a place where one of them gets 15 minutes, 17 minutes?
Yeah, I could see Parker only getting 15 to 17.
I mean, so it's just, I get it. I know what you're saying. The price is there and we got to find value. A triple split of some big spots is a little scary to me.
All right, well, let's move to game 2. We've got the Lakers and Suns at 10 o'clock, and this is the lowest total on the board, down to 208.5. Lakers favored by 1.5 after losing a dogfight where neither team got to 100.
That's great. That's old school.
90 old school. Lots of intensity with the close friends LeBron and Chris Paul off the court getting hooked up figuratively and literally there in the paint, and fracas after fracas with Trez and getting involved, and just a scrappy series. And we've only had one game, so this one's going to be entertaining. We've got these great top 10 defenses. Lakers still number 1. Suns are 9th. We've got this below average pace. Suns way down at 26.
Yeah.
Lakers still very inefficient offensively. They're 24th on the season. Suns are number 4. They can really score it, and that's why they're 51-21 in the regular season, because they've got the great defense and great offense. And that's really the makeup of a championship team, to have a top 10 offensive and defensive efficient rating. So they're in a great spot. They're at home, looking to go up 2-0. Nader's still out, but everybody else ready to go here. I'll start with the Lakers side. And, LeBron was solid. AD was not. And the big takeaway from game 1 for me was LeBron talking about AD in the media after the game, saying he's got to be more aggressive. And if LeBron is saying that publicly, he's also saying that privately to AD and saying, hey, listen, we need you here in game 2. You got to step up and be you. And so, I think AD will play better, and it tempts me to play him, although I still prefer Durant in that price range. So I don't know if I will play AD, but I'm curious to see what your thought is on this. And we've talked for a long time about LeBron and AD, and it's always a really important discussion here on these small slates. But I'm not too fired up about the Lakers in general with this tough defense, even though they're ultra motivated. Talk about split minutes. I mean, Drummond only played 19 minutes. The bench guys didn't get as much run, so sometimes you look at a Caruso or a THT, and they're a little hard to trust. I mean, Caruso got solid minutes. He got 24 minutes. Didn't do much in this one. He's pretty cheap. Montrez Harrell, speaking of getting involved in those little dust ups, He's a little interesting to me as a value play. He got 15 minutes. They didn't play Gasol. They went a little smaller, quote unquote, with AD at the center.
Yeah.
But he's really cheap on DraftKings at 3,500. So he's in the player pool for me. The Suns played Saric at the backup center role, and I think
Yeah.
Trez can get it done against him. And he can be so effective that I would think Vogel would get him out there again and let him roll for maybe even more, maybe 18 to 20 minutes. They need that scoring punch off the bench. When you have Kuzma playing 19 minutes and going 0 for 2, you can't rely on him, right? So Vogel, I mean, if Trez comes in and he's a spark plug and he's motivated because of what happened in Game 1, then I think he's worth considering. But it's not like a lock and load value play for me. And then the guards, KCP got big minutes again, but didn't do too much. Schroeder, I think, is fine. He's worth considering as a mid-tier option if you want to get a couple balanced guys in there. Guys like Schroeder and Smart, in that mid 5K range are playable for me on this slate. So
Yeah.
I don't think I'll end up paying up for LeBron. AD, probably not either. But maybe in a second lineup, a GPP lineup, I would get AD out there. But this is a tough task here for the Lakers. It's gonna be a war, and we'll see if the big guys can step up here. What are your thoughts on LeBron and AD?
I mean, we had the same scenario last year in the playoffs. You sort of needed to have one of the two guys in the lineup and one of them was in almost every optimal lineup in the bubble last year in the playoffs. But, this Phoenix team just tortures people. They slow the ball down. It's a 208.5. And like you said, they were in the 90s the last game. But the Lakers are favored, which is amazing to me, that Phoenix has played so much better, but Vegas has the Lakers 1.5. So they believe that, the old Rudy T thing, never question the heart of a champion thing will come out here. And, I'm with you, man. I noticed that right away as LeBron very seldom will, I guess you can call it calling out a teammate a little bit in saying that AD's got to play better. I think he meant more that, not to criticize him, but I think he just meant more, listen, you're the best player on the team, obviously other than him. And we need you to just go off for us to win, I think is what he was trying
Yeah,
to
no, I agree. I don't think it
nudge
was a
him.
negative thing. It was hey,
No,
let's do this. Yep.
right. So, I'm sure AD heard that, that he, heard it in the locker room. And, that makes me really want to play AD because we know he has that ability. But I'll tell you, you look statistically at teams, the two teams that I noticed throughout the year, and I went back and it's a true, statistical analysis here. When guys, the real good players play Phoenix or the Knicks, those are the two teams. They just don't do very well consistently. They are able, their defensive schemes or who they've got in there, they're able to hold guys down. And when I say hold guys down, they just don't get as many shots. They take people out of their offense. Because that's the thing that shocked me when I looked at this. LeBron only took 13 shots in a really big game. AD 16. Those two guys should get 20 shots. I mean, that's just the way it should be, in my opinion. Only 3 or 4 shots behind them in attempts. You had Pope and then Caruso, followed by Drummond and Schroeder after that. So that just seems odd to me. I think that the two guys, LeBron and AD, will try to take control of the reins. But like the point I just made, Phoenix just doesn't let you get yourself into your offense and get a rhythm. So I don't know, Andrew. I mean, if I go with a guy in this game and pay up, it will be Davis, but I'm not positive that I'm going to do it. I think that the price definitely is a concern, and I think I'd rather go to a second flight guy or two here to try to make the salary work. Now, I could come on here and say, yeah, I want Durant and Harden and Tatum and James and Davis. And yeah, good luck with that. It doesn't happen. You're already 5,000 over. So I like the fact that Schroeder is playing decent. I know that he didn't always get Chris Paul defense either. That switched around a little bit. Booker was on him a little bit. Campaign was on him a little bit. So I think Schroeder at his price is fair. I mean, he contributes and he plays hard, and you got to find guys like that. The wild card here that I like a little bit, that I may have to play for huge salary relief is KCP. He played 35 minutes. They need him defensively to play Booker. He was only 2 for 9 from the field, which is bad, but he usually makes a few threes in there, a few more threes. He took 7 threes, which was the most on the team. And, he drops 2 or 3 more of those. He usually grabs a few rebounds and assists and a steal or two. That's enough to get it done for value for sure at his price. And, identifying those 1 or 2 guys that are going to make a difference as far as allowing you to spend up for some people, he's the one I'm considering. After that, I see the guys that want to stick with Kuzma, but his price isn't as cheap. And we saw, Kuzma drives me crazy, man. If it's a game, regular season game, it doesn't matter that much, and they're up or down 15, he'll make 5-6 threes in a row like nothing. You put him in a game like this where it's crunch time, I don't see him stepping up very much. 0 for 2, really? And Vogel only has 19 minutes for him. That says a lot to me, and I'm not going to go there. Drummond and Montrez Harrell, watching those 2 guys is frustrating as well because they split the game. Neither one is super efficient, and Drummond gets in foul trouble. I just don't want to stress it because Harrell's certainly cheaper, but I don't trust it, and I just I would rather have a guy, and this sounds crazy, but it's just my thinking. I'd rather have a guy that plays 34 minutes and gets 18 fantasy points than a guy that plays 14 minutes and gets 16 fantasy points. Yeah, I understand pricing and everything else, but the room for improvement for guys that are out there on the floor, I'll go that way every time. So, and then the other guys just, you can't go there in this type of a game. The THTs and Wes Matthews. And I mean, unless you think you're going to pull a magic rabbit out of the hat like Forbes or Dedmond. I mean, if you can do that, then you should be playing the lottery numbers too, because, those kind of things are not extremely easy to predict. But, you also can easily get a 4 fantasy point night or 5 fantasy point like Carmelo put out last night with some of these guys. So I want to stay safer, considering either LeBron or Davis, like the Schroeder, Caldwell Pope potential here. And I think this game, will be a little more high scoring. It was more, LA saying, hey, we're the champs, Phoenix saying we're the new kids on the block. And, it was more of a who could punch each other in the chops and stand their ground. I think now that they've both done that, you'll see a little bit more pace, a little bit more shot making, and there will be some value in this game. So that's what I think on the Lakers side. You want me to jump right into the Suns?
Please do.
All right, couple of guys. Mikhail Bridges has been a guy that I've been on for quite some time. 4 for 12 is not going to get it done, but 40 minutes and 32 seconds again for Bridges. I mean, his price is right. His upside is there. He's a fantastic defender. So he's going to be on the floor probably 40 minutes again. And he's going to get you a couple rebound steals. I think he's a nice position player that can help balance your salary level. So he's highly in play. Jay Crowder, I had him last time out. I figured, he'd step up. They count on him to make, a playoff run like he did with the Heat last year. And I think he's a playable commodity again. He almost got 30 minutes. Again, he shot poorly, 3 for 10, and 0 for 7 from 3. So some of those are going to go down. And he's going to get some rebounds. He always gets some steals, and he's just a really good playoff type caliber guy. So another guy you can get fairly cheap. A guy that's going to get a ton of ownership because he had his best game of the season, which was 10 for 11 from the field, 16 rebounds, and that's DeAndre Ayton. No, I'm not touching him with 100-foot pole, and I don't care if people think I'm crazy, but if you think he's going to repeat half that performance, good luck to you, and go spend the money on Ayton, because I don't believe it. I don't think it's going to happen, not with that Lakers interior defense of AD, Drummond, and Harrell. So Ayton is of no interest to me, and he'll be chalk. Booker is the other guy that I think really has potential here, along with Chris Paul. I mean, so Bridges, Crowder, Booker, Paul all could make a lineup or two for me. And Booker and Paul not on the same team, but I can see Booker in a hybrid and GPP possibly for Paul. I went Paul last time because I just thought he'd be able to attack Schroeder, but he played more of a, just run the floor general type thing. And then he was in some of those skirmishes, and, he was really looking to get Booker his. And, Paul had 8 shots. Booker took 26 shots. Now that's where, you expect the stars of this league to take 26 shots in a game like this. So I don't know if Booker gets that many again, and he is expensive. I think Paul's going to get, more like 12, 14 shots and increase his output. So you can make a case for either one of them, Booker or Paul. I think everybody's just going to sprint to, Ayton, probably a little Bridges or Crowder, and then probably Booker. But I still, my strategy is still the same here. I think Paul is playable. Booker, if you can fit him salary-wise, and Bridges and Crowder are good value. After that, I don't trust the Cam Johnson game. He did well, 2 threes, 23 minutes, 6 rebounds. He was a nice sneaky value play last time. I expect the same thing, about 20 minutes though, and he is a youngster that hasn't been in this situation, so it's a little concerning there. After that though, it's just bit minutes for Payne, Craig, Saric, Moore. Those guys I don't think just quite get there enough to make a lineup too risky. So it's the main dudes, but not the ones I think that are going to be the most played in the industry. So I like this side of the board here.
Yeah, Phoenix much more interesting to me than the Lakers because their prices are way down. Booker 8,100 or 8,200, and that's a steal. I mean,
after 26 shots too,
yeah,
and
exactly.
34 real points. It's crazy.
He was awesome, and
yeah.
It's like Kenny the Jet Smith said in the post game: if the Lakers don't run more double teams at him, they're going to be in trouble. And
Yep.
I would also think it would shift a little bit. Maybe Booker doesn't get 26 shots. Maybe Paul gets a few more.
Right.
But I still, at that price tag for Booker, I'm very interested in him tonight. Bridges, I agree, minutes are great, solid price. He's playable. Crowder, definitely playable in that price range. I also don't expect Ayton to do quite as well. I think he's playable, but I'm not looking to pay up at center probably today. So I'm probably not going to go there either. Cam Johnson, good minutes. Payne, I think Payne, he did get ejected, so I think he'll get a few more minutes. He's playable for me. He's been pretty solid here.
He's been
for
terrific.
quite a while.
Yeah.
So he's in consideration for me. All right, Coach, before we get your Mavs in Game 3, just want to invite folks to jump in with us as a member. DFSCoachTalk.com. Grab all of our lineups. We're making full lineups on FanDuel and Yahoo, and we give out the core for cash games on DraftKings, the core for GPPs that hit yesterday. And 3-day passes are available. So jump in, try us out for $10, or grab our playoff package now. It's still right there on the bottom on YouTube if you're watching there. $111 for the entire 2 months. Great value for us. Best time of the year. Take advantage of our NBA lineups. So we invite you to do that. While you're there on YouTube, if you don't mind, subscribe to the channel. And we are going to continue to bring these 7-day-a-week podcasts throughout the playoffs. So best time of year, right, Coach?
It really is. And, I'd like to ask again. I mean, we bring these in front of the paywall every day of the week for NBA. And our big ask really is, we've got some goals that we're trying to do from the podcast side. And we need your help to get to those goals. And it only takes a matter of a few seconds. And we only have about 31% of our regular listeners, which, thank you, because our viewership has grown tremendously. But only about 31% of them hit that thumbs up, subscribe, and then hit the little alert button. And, if we could just get that up to half of you, just take that extra second. You can do it right now. You can do it at the front or the back of the podcast and just literally hit the thumbs up, subscribe, and hit the alert button. And if you're listening, we have a lot of audio listeners as well. We're everywhere podcasts can be heard. Stitcher, Podbean, iHeart, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, we're everywhere. And we also have a drawing once a month. Our man Joe Stanton goes in there. He looks for anybody that's given us a 5-star rating and made a comment, even if it's "you guys are great" or whatever, a small comment. That gets you into the drawing for a free week membership at Coach Talk. So if you're doing that, please take a second there as well. And again, this is our sweet spot. We love the NBA playoffs. I know it's my favorite time of the year when I anticipate I'm going to make the most bucks for my DFS, buck or, spot. So, I would say this is, check us out. If you want to hit that 111, just go to dfscoachtalk.com. Then you're with us all the way through July 22, which is the very end of the playoffs. Or if you just want to see what we're about, takes a couple seconds, hit that 3-day pass for $10. We'll get you in Discord in a matter of minutes. And that's where you want to be. I know Andrew and the rest of our pros were constantly in Discord. Our members are very well read on DFS and how it works and the strategies. You also get access to our DFS Coach Talk process that we don't talk about enough, because what it does is it combines the way to sustain long-term profitability playing DFS. And you do that through really two things. And it doesn't have anything to do about who you roster as a player. It's the two things that are more important than that. And I'll argue that point with anybody. And that's bankroll management and contest selection. You could be a terrific person in getting the guys in your lineup, but if you're playing the wrong contests and going all in and just doing all kinds of crazy things, it's just a matter of time. I tell everybody, it's like playing the slot machines. If you have a goal and you hit it, you get the money, you go, and you're good. But if you keep spinning and spinning and have no idea of what you're doing, it's just a matter of time. So we try to put all of that together for you here and, coach through that. And that's really what's motivated Andrew and I to get Coach Talk to where it is. We want to see our members in our community consistently win. Maybe we're not going to win $100,000 all the time, like Andrew did $121,000. It can happen, as he proved, but we're wanting to be more realistic and, let's make 100 today, or let's make 600 this week, or whatever. It is a marathon, not a sprint in DFS. And we would love to share that with you, coach you up, and then go after it and take it to the next level in DFS. Because there's nothing more frustrating than having to reload and reload. It's just not a fun thing. So we would love to have you. And sorry, that was my soapbox. I haven't done that in a while, Andrew.
Well, Dirk is smiling because he knows you're about to talk about his Mavs up 1-0. Going
How
for
about
a 2-0
that, man?
against the Clippers.
And I feel guilty because I gave us very slim chances to go to LA and get a win. So I was wrong, and I'm glad I was wrong. I hope I'm wrong again tonight because I'm worried. I am worried. Now, I will say this, and this I felt this all along, and I feel it more now. And I apologize to any Tyrone Lue fans or Clipper fans. I just don't. He does not impress me as a coach. He never has. I thought LeBron basically coached the team when he was in Cleveland, and he was just, going along with whatever LeBron was stating, even about bringing players in and minutes and everything. His strategy is confusing. Sometimes his game plan doesn't make sense to me, and it showed in game one. So the reason I feel the Mavs, still have a chance to win this, obviously being up 1-0 is an advantage, but I think they can win this series because I think Carlisle can outcoach Tyrone Lue. And Carlisle hasn't had his best season of coaching either, but he's found a rotation, and he's found, that shift when they took Richardson out of the starting lineup and put Hardaway in there with his phenomenal shooting. And the rotation just shifted. It gave, instead of getting an offensive punch off the bench, they would bring in Brunson. They bring in Brunson and Richardson off the bench, and it's a defensive punch. I mean, those two are dogs on defense. And it's like, okay, let's get the guys out here. Let's score, knock down some threes, try to get a lead. Then we're going to rest and bring in our defensive unit. And it just has worked so much better than the vice versa when they were trying to bring the offense off the bench. So I love the place they're in right now. They've got a good strategy against the Clippers. Now, Tyrone Lue came out 2 days ago and said, what they're going to do is they're going to put Kawhi on Luka. First of all, why the hell would you tell everybody that anyway? So, save that strategy for the game. But he says, "Nah, we're gonna play Kawhi on Luka." So here's a couple things. One, I think the better strategy and what I've seen work against Luka this year and a little bit last year as well is just put an average defender on him and then double him. That's when you have a better chance because he has to give up the ball. You don't let him go downhill to make those penetration baskets or penetration and then kick for a three. So I know Kawhi's an awesome defender, maybe the best in the league, and I know he can slow Luka down, but I don't believe it's going to change the offensive scheme for what the Mavericks want to do. So very interesting there. Luka, I think was phenomenal the last game. Not going to use him as one of my pay-up guys here, though. It's just I respect the Clippers' defense. And in this game, by the way, the Clippers are favored by 6.5. So Vegas, they see that they're going to come out there and get after it too. And, but a couple of things to look at here. The pace aspect of 25th and 28th. We forget some of that because there was some scoring in that last game. But it's, this could be one of those knockdown, drag-out kind of battles where there's not a ton of points scored. Granted that, Dallas's defense wasn't the best this year, but it got better, and the Clippers were 8th. So, that's something you have to look at. So I'm not going to be a big stack person in this game. I think, a couple secondary guys are playable for Dallas. Finney Smith I used in the first game, and he was really fantastic. Now, is he going to go 7 for 9, including 4 threes from the field? I got, a little lucky there, but he gets monster minutes. He played almost 37. He's going to get rebounds, a couple steals. And so I think at his price, if you do need value, he's a guy that I wouldn't mind going to. Same thing with Tim Hardaway. We talked about it before. And, we had said, well, he's a little scoring dependent, which he is at times, but he has shot the ball better than anybody in the NBA other than Steph Curry in the second half of the season. People don't realize that. He has been incredible. He's got 210 threes on the season. When you get over 200, man, that's elite. And he did a lot of that coming off the bench. So now that he's starting, getting good minutes, Hardaway is certainly a fine option as well. One thing to watch here, we do have an injury of note here. Kleba is questionable. He's not quite right. I'm not sure he's going to play, and that's going to shift things because he played 36 minutes in game 1 which was probably too much because he's been banged up. And also Reddick's out for this entire series in case we missed that. So if Maxey plays less minutes or no minutes, who is that going to affect the most? I think you're going to see a combination jump. Dwight Powell only played 7 minutes and 27 seconds in that first game. I think you'll see him be the biggest beneficiary of those minutes. I think he's actually playable if Kleba sits completely. Cauley Stein, 4 minutes last game. He just hasn't looked good. I don't trust him. And you had a little Nico Melli. So it's not somewhere if Kleba gets knocked out for this game that you want to just run and play somebody because they don't have a great spot. But Dwight Powell would be the guy to me that I think that Carlisle would go to in the starting lineup and could be playable with a 25-minute game. As far as the bench, Brunson, you can always count on to at least, play hard with his 22 minutes. But I think I'd rather go with a Finney-Smith and Hardaway. Now, I haven't mentioned one guy because I want to finish with that and have you comment on him because for the life of me, I get so agitated watching him. I watch him closely. He gets banged around. He gets pushed around. And it's Porzingis. You know how frustrated I get with him. But I have to say this as a Mavs fan. We can't go far in these playoffs unless he plays like all-star basketball. If he's going to play like he did this last game, 36 minutes, which is a boatload of minutes for him. He does not usually play over 30, 32. If he gets 36, 37 minutes again, he's going to have to rebound. He's going to have to hit threes. He's going to have to block some shots. And so he's got to step up. So he can be a boom or bust guy, certainly a great GPP play, but I've actually tinkered with the thought of putting him in my main hybrid lineup because I think he's going to be the difference maker in this game, either from a good side if the Mavs can keep it close and win, or a bad side if he plays one of his other softy marshmallow games. So what do you think about Porzingis? Will he make your lineup?
I'm right now planning to probably play him in the GPP on FanDuel because he's only 6,900.
I know.
And the guy can get over 50 fantasy points.
Definitely.
And just what are the chances he plays 36 minutes and goes 14-4? Again, that is just pathetic. I agree.
It doesn't seem like you can. At that size, 7'3", doesn't the ball hit you in the head?
It should at least 5 or 6 times. He has to step up. They do need him, even though they won. He's got to do more than that. So that I think that's a little too cheap on FanDuel for him. I also like DFS or THJ as a potential value, getting lots of shots. When they double Luka.
You're out of letters. You need to be playing Wheel of Fortune.
Brunson, maybe, if you need to save a few bucks in that guard spot. Jay Rich, not really interested in him. I'd rather play DFS in that same price range.
Yeah.
Clippers side. Now, I'm excited here because Kawhi Leonard, I don't understand why he's 8,300 on DraftKings.
He's going to be chalk. He'll be chalk city.
I don't care. 41 minutes. He's healthy. It's the playoffs.
And he's mad.
He's mad that they're down 1-0. I mean, I don't know how you don't play Kawhi Leonard at 8,300 on DraftKings. 9,400.
This is one of those where, as a Mavs fan, you know how it feels when you have to play that key guy from the other team. You get a little sick to your stomach, but you got to do it.
Right, exactly. Paul George is a fair value. I do like Booker a little bit more, but Paul George is playable. Marcus Morris, a guy you've been on all season, came out cold, 0 for 6 on three-pointers.
He killed me that last game.
But 4,400 on FanDuel looks pretty good to me. I'd like him to bounce back a little bit.
Mid-30s minutes probably too,
Center spot, a little bit messy there with the Clippers in the first game. Zubac's only 19 minutes. Ibaka only 13.
Can you explain that to me? The Mavericks can't guard a big, strong center. Zubac's has 2 monster dunks in the first 5 minutes, and only plays 19 minutes. He only had 2 fouls.
Yeah, well,
What's the reasoning?
they went a little smaller. Batum got big minutes. He got 32 minutes. And then you had Kawhi and Paul George combining for 40 shots. So those guys ran the show. Zubats didn't get a bunch of touches. So I think those guys are a little hard to trust in this matchup with the way things are going. I'd rather go Kawhi here or Marcus Morris or even Batum as a value play.
So do you think Morris gets a lot of center minutes from Zubats?
Uh,
Because that's sort of what they did.
yeah. I mean, yeah. I mean, let's look on the other side. Dallas they don't have that type of big bruising center
No,
that you really need a Zubats or Ibaka in there against in the post. So
true.
I don't see it shifting too much here in game 2 with the minutes distribution.
If they let Zubats play 33 minutes against this Mavericks interior defense, he could score 25 points and have 14 rebounds.
Yeah,
I just think it's a terrible strategy. I mean, I understand what you're saying, the defensive matchup on the other side and everything, but why lose that? I mean, did you see the 2 monster dunks he had early on and some of those rebounds? I think it's bad strategy. They're playing right into the Dallas Mavericks' hands, and I hope they keep playing small throughout this series, because if they do, the Mavericks are going to win it.
With the rest of these guys here, Rondo's in play.
Wait, hold on 1 second. I got to give Dirt. He asked for a high five. Sorry.
He likes that call, no doubt. You could go with Rondo or Batum off the bench.
You trust the Batum play? People are going to go there.
He's had a lot of periods this season when he's been very steady, and 32 minutes, I'll take 28 minutes. He's playable for me. He's not in my first lineup, but at that price tag, I think he's worth considering.
He's a good wild card. He and Rondo are good wild cards, probably.
So is Kawhi locked in for you on DraftKings at 8,300?
Yeah, he is.
Okay.
It hurts me to say that, but he is.
How about Marcus Morris? Will you consider him?
I'm considering him. I'm doing a little Ollie shuffle here, trying to determine which way to go. He's in consideration, but Kawhi's already in the base.
Okay. Any other thoughts here on the Clippers before we wrap up?
Well, I wanted your opinion because I thought, I know you so well because we've done 218 billion shows together. I thought you would sniff out a little Rajon Rondo as a nice little value play, because he seemed to take over that team in the second half and help them way better than Reggie Jackson looked like Garbaggio. So I think Rondo could play 30 minutes maybe. It's possible.
No, Rondo definitely in play for me. I think he'll be in a decent amount of my lineups for sure.
I thought so. See, I know you, Andrew. I know your lineups. You win, and then I don't play your exact lineup, so I'm on you now.
Okay. Yeah, former Celtic, it helps, but no, it's just the way he plays. Playoff time, he steps up.
He set the Mavs back 2 years, by the way, that SOB, the way he handled himself here in Dallas.
That was a mess in Dallas. But the problem is, he's hit some threes lately, and obviously you can't trust that.
Right.
And so his price has crept up a little bit. So I don't love him because of the risk of the threes, but I do think he'll get steady minutes and should be solidly productive.
I agree.
All right, well, let's wrap it up there. Hope everybody is off to a good start building those lineups here for the 3-game slate. Again, join us if you want our lineups at dfscoachtalk.com. We'll send you an email and get you those lineups about 20 minutes before lock, and we'd love to have you. Again, on Twitter, we're at DFS Coach Talk. The coach is at JOESARVADI. I am at Language Olympic, and we'll be back again tomorrow to cover the next slate. So thank you for tuning in today. On behalf of the coach and the rest of the DFS Coach Talk team, I'm Andrew Hansen. We'll see you tomorrow as we look to crush it in DFS.